Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's September the 25th. This will be our chart lesson for today. Um, I had to back way out to get all this in on one chart, and you can see how tiny it looks, but that's just how much movement we had today. Really a 30-point move from where we opened. 90, we opened what at 90.75 yesterday afternoon, and this thing went as low as 58. So how much is that? That's 30 points. So big move today, and you don't get days like this very often. So what I tell people is when you do get a day like this, you know, take advantage of it. Get as much out of it as you can, and I mean, just a great trading day. And it's a lot of times you catch some big runners on days like this. Just let them go. Give it. Especially once you got you could have had a 3 or 4 points in a runner and or more, 10 points really, in no time. And just once you get 10 points, lock in so much of it and give it a go and see what happens. On a day like this. So um, it's probably overdone. It wouldn't surprise me. We still got 30 minutes almost left in the day. It wouldn't surprise me if this thing doesn't close. A lot of times on days like this, it'll close on its very low. But we're rallying out of here pretty good, and we've had a pretty good move, so it's way overdone. So I'm guessing we'll probably take some of it back, and in the end, the day won't look nearly as bad as it probably would. But at the same time, if this thing gets up here and reverses, we could end up closing on a new low, because generally that's what will happen on a day like this. It'll just trade down into the close, and but it's rallied out of here a couple of times and made some higher lows as well. And I'm just guessing it's probably way overdone, and they'll probably try to keep it from being as terrible a looking day as it really is, and try to close it a little higher and take some of it back or whatever. But it's so late in the day, you don't want to be trading now anyway, unless you're managing a runner. And if you're short, you might still hang on to a runner, put your stop at a reasonable place so you don't give it all back and see what it does. But you could have seen today as two different ways. Actually, I believe this little small two-tiered channel that was here early was easy to find. This was not very hard to find. It's real obvious. Um, it was there early. I believe it's a shorter term, but I believe what it is, we spiked down and then went into this channel because this is too steep. 45-degree angle is usually more the right angle, more this angle here. Um, and I believe that this was just a shorter term. But either way, you got the break, a couple of measured legs down to a new low, and then it corrected for a while. And that's generally what you'll see. Sometimes you'll get a reversal, but at the very least, when you get a trend line break and a new, your couple of legs down to a new low, you're going to see at least an hour of correction. And that's what this was here. We actually corrected from, it started correcting maybe about 10 o'clock, and it lasted until I would say maybe here. So a little after 11. So about an hour, about what you would expect. And then it started down again. But I believe that there's a bigger spike in channel down with two tiers in this bigger channel. And you can see once we started bouncing off this line right here, and it just kept going lower until you got a break here and a move to a new low. And look how quick it sold off there. It just wouldn't surprise me at all to see a new low here, because generally on a sell-off like this, the market will close on a new low. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. I've got to move over here and back out, or you're not going to be able to see anything. It's not very often that we have to do it this way, but this is one of them. So, um, but early on, this is a trading range. Look how flat the EMA is. It was left over from the close yesterday. Look how flat that is. So this is a trading range. And we failed out the low here in the overnight. Then we went up, made a little double top, and then it turned down and it goes out the bottom. This is a breakout pullback short. This was really bearish right here. Uh, there was some news that came out, and then you get the little bounce and then a turn back down. And so this went higher. You may not be able to see that. Come on. This broke higher, turn went out. That's a breakout pullback short. It's a second entry short counting off that high. That's a bearish move down. You're probably going to get a measured leg which is to about right there, and then you got a little correction and it continues to go lower. But I like going short right there. That's a breakout pullback short. It's a second entry short. You're looking for another leg down. It's pretty bearish right there. That was a fairly bearish move. Um, and you make a first entry long, pull back second entry long. It breaks higher, turns down. I liked going short there because it was a little bit of a trap. Um, at first, I was trying to decide if this, I wanted to almost make that one green, but there's a trap there to the long side, and I guarantee there were people bottom picking, and it pushed on down for another easy scalp. And then you get a correction here. I don't have a line on this one. There's your trend working up your break. You move to a new high, and then it sells off. And if you found this little tight channel here and you did a measured move over to the high, you didn't even have to know a measured move. Just move it to the high. And that's exactly where it turns down. It goes out the top and then out the bottom at the same one. I just like going short right off. That's a second entry short right off the EMA with that trap. And off it goes again. And then it pulls back. And notice here, you're coming down, first entry long, pull back, second entry long after a big move down. There's bottom fissures. It fails and goes down. And you're looking for it to come back to this line, most likely, because this is a midline here. This really should be lighter. It was so busy and crazy today, I never got around to changing it. And off you're going. And another run, you could have caught runners off this one, this one, this one, um, and that was pretty much it. And I don't see, we'll talk about that one when we get there. But anyway, um, failed second entry long right here, keeps going. Um, it's moved so far now, I just didn't see any way to enter in this. It's time for a correction. But you're heading up, first entry short, pull back, second entry short again. It broke higher first, turned down. Just go short out that bottom. And if you waited on this bar and went short, you had to ride all this out. And you might have got shaken out of that one, but if you went short up here, you probably got out of it. This is one you might use a limit order. And it would have gotten filled, at least at the bottom of that bar. But you probably just want to stop sitting there on a break lower. And then again, you get another, this is almost a repeat pattern of this one right here. You got a new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. Again, it's inside that line. It's right off the EMA. It's a second entry short. That's also a little trading range with a failed break higher. When you got it, when you're selling off like this, you're just looking for any reason to enter. And it moves down. I don't think you want to enter here because it's like a little failed break. It is a breakout pullback short. It is, again, right off the line. But it gaps open and it doesn't pull back in there and fill it. It goes lower and then comes back. I just think that one's a little risky with all that overlap right there. If you entered here, you're okay. If you wait till here, it's a little risky because it didn't go very far, pulls back. In fact, you might have even, this pullback might have even shaken you out of this trade. So I don't see any reason to enter that second one. It's tempting, especially on a sell-off like this, but I think you just got to wait. And plus, you're looking at this close. This was the open from yesterday, and you're generally it's going to act as some kind of resistance or support temporarily, maybe, and it's real close to that. There's enough room to scalp out there. But if you did go short there, when you saw that little inside bar, just exit. Take what it'll give you, especially if it breaks above that. Maybe move your stop to right there. And get out right there because that's not a good sign. This should have went on lower and it didn't. And you get another chance to enter right here, but it's just a first entry. It's a second entry on a different level, but I just didn't like entering here. This is the first break of this, so there's a chance you could get trapped and it's going to go higher to maybe this next line, or maybe there's even a line further up here. Okay, I'm sorry, I had a slight interruption. I can't remember where we were at. I think we were just talking about this move here. I really didn't like this setup right here, because we just made a break and I was afraid it might go higher. It looks like it's going to be. Let me just go ahead and put the line on there because it's a little hard to see maybe if you're not familiar with what we do. But it looks like a spike in a channel. So there's your break right there, and you figure you might get a retest. Plus, if there's some other line here, like right here, there's a chance that there's an equal distance one on up here. At that point, I was looking at it like being a line across there, but this one being up here. And so the equal distance one was only a little bit further up here. So I thought we would probably pull back and try to test it again, which we didn't, and I was wrong. So, um, but sometimes that's what happens to you when you try to get too far ahead of price action, especially on a big sell-off day. So looking back at it, it looks real easy. But at the time, I felt that was just too risky without a retest right there. We'd already had a huge move down, and it was starting to flatten out. And I just really thought we would go a little bit higher right there. But we didn't. So if you saw that and took it, it's a little bit aggressive in my opinion, but it worked out easily. And notice too that you got a new high right here. This little swing high is slightly higher than that one. And so you got a first entry, pull back a second entry long that fails and turns down. But here I was a little nervous about this line right here because your notice is starting to get support on it. And I'm just afraid that it's going to turn down and come back. And so I don't like that trap. Even though there's a trap there, it would have worked, but I didn't like it. And then there's a breakout pullback short right here, and there is a double test of that. Notice it came up, tested it, turned down, tested it again. So there's another opportunity to go short right there. But now you got a break, and you got at least two legs down. You got a new low. So again, I just think if you've caught all of these or even a couple of these, why risk going short right here when we're overdue for a bounce? So that was my thinking, and of course I was wrong, and it kept going down. So I tell you what I'm going to do here, just because some of you may not be as looking back at it, I wish I'd have taken them all, but this is a breakout pullback with a double kiss. So it's a little aggressive because of where it's happening, but some of you may not have seen that either, and you might have really liked that trade. And it did turn out to be a good trade. So I'll mark that one in green. And turned out that there's two legs down, but this is just your first leg. So when it did start going lower here, I don't think I would have entered anything new here, but if you entered short right here, I would have looked for a measured leg when it kept going. And just to show you, oops, wrong line. I'm probably going to call that leg one and then leg two right there. And you see one a little bit further than that. And this one's a little bit hard to actually determine exactly. There's really a little correction right there. So it might have been from there and then from there. And you see that fits a little better. And then it even made one more push down because the market is just really weak right here. And once they get it to rolling, they just keep running stops and people keep exiting and new shorts just keep jumping in. And then you can see once it starts correcting that they all run for the hills. And that's what that is right there. And there's not really even a good opportunity to enter right here. Because it's a first entry, that's a huge move. It went right through the EMA. It has every earmark of a reversal type pattern setting up. But look at it go. But I think what happens once it started going down again, everybody realized, hey, it's headed lower, so they jump back in again. And again, notice this red line, that was the low from yesterday. So that's why you got a little bounce there, but it didn't hold very long. And then notice a new high, pull back first entry long, pull back second entry long. It fails, it traps everybody. Just go short on that one, and off it goes again. And easy move, more runners again. And then you're moving here. There's a second entry short here, but there's not a very good setup. Wait, when it starts going, moving that far, there is a trend line break, a move to a new high, but I think you're better off to wait on the second entry, counting off the high. And so you got a new high, first entry short, and it does bounce. And look at this one right here. It breaks higher first, turn, goes out that short side. Just go short right there. And you just ride that down. It does bounce again, and then it just kind of then you realize you're correcting here. There's a failed second entry long right there. Um, at that point, I had this low a little bit lower. I was looking for prices to come down to this level, and that's where they ended up bouncing. So another scalp. You get just enough to get a scalp out of that one on that little failed second entry long. Notice the new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry long. It fails instantly, turns down. You got to go short below that bar right there, just enough to get out. And then it bounces. And because this was looking like a trading range, by that time I'd moved this up a little bit. Because that looks like a trading range, I kind of liked going long there if you wanted to be aggressive. Um, and it did turn out to be a pretty nice move up. But that one's a little bit it's a little bit aggressive, and on a day like this you're risking, you're being risky. But look how many times that was the low. We tested it 1, 2, 3, and that was like the fourth. And notice how the closes are getting higher and higher across here and some stems. um, you figure we're coming back up to here, and that's where we go a little bit higher. And again, I don't like going short on that first actually that's a second entry if you're counting off here, but this is more like a trading range now. And so I think you got to wait for it over here. This is your second entry, because here's your new high, first entry, pull back, second entry, and it's right here again at this same spot. You probably would have moved this up to right in here, maybe even here. Um, get a few more touches right there. And then it breaks higher, turns down. I like that for a short on that second entry. Notice how your closes are getting lower than this close. You got some stems there already too, and boom, off it goes. And any runners, if you want to, you probably want to exit right here. I'll be honest, if you're trading runners, um, but if you held on to them, you could keep going. And then you make another new high here. This swing higher is higher than that one. Um, Pulls back, and it's coming right off that line. It was tempting to go short right there, but it's so close to these lows that you just got to wait. So when it ticked higher again and then turned down, I liked going short right there. And then you get to breakout pullback short right here. And then you're waiting, and you get another second entry short right here. And it's right off that line. And I really thought we were going to keep going. This one, when it bounced here, I was a little surprised. Um, but notice it's a two-legged correction is what it is, and there's two legs in the middle. And look at that low. That's one leg with your two-legged correction, and then there's your second leg. You measure it. There's leg 1, and then there's leg 2. If you look at the closes, though, it's probably perfect measure move. You'll see that some, but that's where I'd measure from regardless. Went a little higher, and then it tried to go higher again. It was tempting to go short right there, but this thing's trying to reverse several times here, and this is more like a trading range again. So when it ticks higher and you get that failed second entry long, just go short again, and off it goes. And you see it did bounce back up in here again, and once it can't go higher anymore, it's headed lower again. And we did get that. I told you a minute ago, I thought we'd probably get a new low, and look at there, we did. And we still hadn't closed, so it could still close lower yet. But you'll get these violent little corrections in here. That's why it's so risky going long off these real low point. I mean, going short off these real low points after a lot of movement down, because when it starts correcting, people that have been carrying runners and things like that downward, they get antsy and they exit, and so it causes these little violent or real fast and swift reversals. But see, once it got up here where it was to a new high again, they sold it off, and they sold it off fast and hard. So I hope that makes sense. But man, what a day! 30-point move, and we've got about 5 minutes left in the day, so we may end up pushing lower once again. I don't know. We may get another one of those stop runs where they start running everybody's stops. But as bullish as that looked a minute ago, you heard me talk about it early on, is it wouldn't surprise me to see that new low. because generally that's what happens on a strong sell-off day. It'll close almost on the low. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see it push down again here. Um, and even though it doesn't look like it's going to in the next 5 minutes, it probably could, because just in the short time that we've done this, we started this chart lesson, which was 20 minutes ago, we went from rallying way up here to making a new low to another little short rally. That was all in the last 20 minutes. So don't underestimate what the market can do. Go with what you know, generally it's going to close on its low on a day like this, or if it was rallying up, it's going to close on its high. It doesn't mean it'll happen. Nothing's ever written in stone, but that's just generally what happens more times than not. And so that's why I was expecting that we'd probably make a new low down there. And we may make another one yet, because I still would not be surprised if it doesn't close on its low. So really good trading day. And looking back on it, I did draw this long here, but generally on a day like this, don't buck the trend. If you want to gamble a little bit, when you get in the range, sell every new high, because look what would happen if you sold every new high. Pretty much any correction that made a new high, you could sell it and come out all right. Just about every time. Now there's one right here that went a little higher. But if you draw your short-term trend lines, then you don't have to worry. That helps you with that. Just like right here, it closed outside. It tried to go up again, but couldn't. So at least you know not to sell until you get outside that line for sure. This one, again, was a little iffy for the reasons we talked about earlier. But draw those short-term trend lines, because usually you'll get the break and attempt at a new high. But I will say that when it's real weak like this, or the trend's real strong going the other way, sometimes you don't get those retests on the short term. It's just like right there, you didn't get much of a retest. Here you got one. Here you really didn't get one. Sometimes you just don't get them. The market's just too weak. And so go with what you got. But at least be wise about it before you get back into the short. Make sure you're at some extreme point. And generally, if you'll wait for it to make a high and then wait for a second entry, and if it makes a lower high than with the trend, then you're okay. Just like here, you really didn't. Let me go back, and this is probably important to talk about. So notice here, you really didn't make a new high, or a lower high, because you closed, this bar, you made a high at 68 and a quarter, and this next high you made one, but look at the closes. It can't close as high. And so that's showing you the buyers are a little weaker and the sellers are a little stronger, and there's your second entry. So if you just wait on that, so each time you made a new high there. Don't go short on that one. Wait on the next attempt, and there it is, and then you go short. Right here, you made a new high. Don't go short right there, even though it would have worked. Wait on the next one, and you really don't get a good next one until you get the failed second entry long. Even though that would have worked, you would have had to ride that out. But just like right here, you made a new high. Don't go short on that first one. Wait, and then it runs back up, and I think that's a double top too, and it turns back down. Here you made a new high. It turns down. It does try to go back up. So hopefully that's clear. You wait on it to make a new high, and then make another attempt. That's like here. You made a new high, pulled back, it tried to go higher, and it couldn't go quite as high. It's a tick lower, and then it turns down and goes lower. So I hope that is clear what my point I'm trying to get across right there. It should be clear. See, nothing much is happening here. The market's going to close. Actually, I was wrong a minute ago. There's still 5. There was 10 minutes left before the close, because it's only 3:10. For whatever reason, I was thinking there were 5 minutes till close. Now we've got 5 minutes till close. So, but I'm not going to hang around another 5 minutes. We've talked enough. This is a pretty obvious downtrend day, and you can see if you just get with the trend and stay with it and sell the corrections, and again, don't sell the first new high each time, and wait on the next one, and make sure it's a little lower, and that way you don't get in too early. You could still get in early, but usually you won't, because you'll get enough movement. Like here, the up move wasn't quite over yet, but it was an easy scalp. And notice then you pull back up and you make another high, but it still wasn't over. Pulls up and makes another one. But if you just waited on the first lower high that goes lower, you do better. So you could have actually sold each of these highs because if you wanted to use trading range rules, and it is with the bias. I'd a lot rather you do that than try buying down here. Even though you could have bought down here and made some money too, you're better off not to. Because what if you buy right here and you thought you were doing the same thing you did right here and it goes lower? And then it turns around and goes right back where you thought it would. Or what if you bought right here? If you don't see the price action right, you might even buy right here because notice that new low, first entry, second entry, and that's the first bar that went higher, so it looked like a little short trap, and all you did was get trapped to the long side. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.